All right, we're on chapter 6, the flow of food, purchasing and receiving. So how are you guys feeling so far? We've gone through 5 chapters already, which is a lot. We really go through this book pretty fast, so you definitely got to keep up with it. So purchasing food from an approved or reputable supplier. And that's what it is. You know, you have all these reputable suppliers. You have Cisco, U.S. Foods, you've got Cheney Brothers, Fresh Point, Inland Seafood, Buckhead Beef, Athena, what else? I mean, there's so many of them. I mean, you just have all these suppliers that you can get, you know. Then you go into your baking stuff. You've got your Albert Ooster, you have your Swiss Chalet. I mean, there's just everything. So you have suppliers. One, you got to make sure they're reputable and that they're approved, and that means that they're federally regulated and they're checked and all of that. That they've been inspected by state, local, and federal laws. Okay. Suppliers inspections reports should review these areas: receiving and storage area, processing, shipping, cleaning, sanitizing, personal hygiene, staffing, training, recall program, and HACCP program. And so receiving guidelines, when you're having people receive, you know, one of two things happen, to be honest with you. You are either known as a site that people are checking in the product when it comes, or hey, just leave it over there and I'll get to it. And when you become leave it over there, I'll get to it, I promise you this, you will get crappy food. You will get spoiled food. You will get food that is going to go old quicker on you than what normal. When I was at the resort, I'll never forget, I started there and I'm pulling out this lettuce and I go, didn't we just get it in yesterday? And half of it is gone. It's that spring mix, which I'm not a big fan of because it goes bad pretty quick. And I was like, didn't we just get this in yesterday? Oh, yeah. I was like, you didn't check it. You didn't look at it. You didn't inspect it. And my purchaser said, no, she didn't. And I was like, you have to look at this product. You have to put your eyes on it, because if you don't, you're going to become the place where everybody goes, oh, just, you know what, send it to them. They won't look at it. And that's how you start getting crappy food, and now you're using half of it because you're throwing the other half away. So you got to check your product, okay? So one, you want to make sure that your food is delivered when people can inspect it. You know, the last thing you want to do is not have it delivered at 12 o'clock in the afternoon when lunch service is going on. If you're a small purveyor, guess what? You're going to have somebody checking it in the back. If you are, I worked in hotels, I always had a purchaser. So they, you know what, it could come at 6 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, it didn't matter. I had somebody there and their job was to check this stuff in, organize it, clean it, everything. So you want to make sure that you're staffed to get it inspected. You want to make sure that they know how to receive food, that train them on the safety measures. One, how to accept, reject, or sign for the deliveries. And provide them with the tools. So you want to give them some thermometers so that they can check things. You want to plan ahead for your shipments so that you know what's coming and when, and then inspect your deliveries immediately. Especially anything that's going to go that's perishable, that goes bad quickly. You want to make sure that you're checking that. Fruits, vegetables, all of that. You know, if you look at blueberries, strawberries, strawberries, they break down very quickly. And they spoil very quickly. So you've got to go through them and make sure that you eye them and know that, you know what, they're fresh and they look good. They don't have any mold growing on them already, all of that. So when the inspection process is one, you want to inspect the delivery truck. You know, I always look outside to see what they're doing. You know, inspect the food, count your quantities, and spot check your weights. You know, they'll come in and they'll give you a sheet. This is what you've ordered, and you want to start checking things off. You want to put your eye, if it says you got a 50-pound bag of flour, you want to put your eye on 50-pound bag of flour. If I got 5 cases of oranges, then I'm putting my eye on 5 cases of oranges, because you want to make sure that you get the product that you ordered. And the the right product. Sometimes you're going to get the wrong thing, so you want to double check all that. You want to check and see if it's damaged. You want to see if it's been repackaged or mishandled. You know, if you have a bag of sugar and, you know, it looks like there's been water that has touched it, the bag, and it's discolored, you want to make sure that, hey, is it ripped? Is it anything wrong with it? And you can reject it. So, and if you reject it, I always circle it on my sheet, and then I put my initials to it, and I look at the guy and go, I'm rejecting this because of this. And then they give me a rejection slip, and I got to sign it, and they take it away. So you can easily reject things. It's not hard, just people always are scared to. But, you know, it's a process, and as long as you're looking at it, it's okay to. Take sample temperatures. There's nothing wrong with using your thermometer and taking temperatures to make sure that things that are frozen, things that are supposed to be at certain temperatures, that they are. And you'll see when we get into this PowerPoint, you're going to see that, you know, like milk can come in at 45 degrees. Well, temperature danger zone is 41 degrees, right? So, but it allows for a little bit of carryover. So you have a little cushion there. So you can take that, and that will be on your certification. Like for your eggs and milk, I've seen that. I've seen those questions on there. So just good for you to know. Inspect, so we talked about that. The key drop delivery. So the key drop delivery is this. So if you're a business that nobody's there at 5 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, and you want to always be the first one off the truck, that you want to have your product there. And what they do is you give them a key. They get a key to your place. They get the alarm code, all of that. Somebody comes in and they literally drop your product. They'll put whatever needs to go into the freezer, into the walk-in coolers, dry storage area. They'll leave the sheet. You get there, you check it in, and if there's anything that you need to say, you call them immediately. So that's what a key drop is, okay? That they just have access after hours, and it kind of makes it nice for you. Staff must inspect the delivery upon the operation, and that it's not contaminated, that it's approved and all of that. So you got to get in. When you get there, you got to look at it immediately, okay? Rejecting items, separate rejected items. I already told you about that. Tell the delivery person that it's wrong. Get a signed adjustment or credit slip that you have, because you want to put it to the slip that you're getting charged with, so that, hey, your invoice, whoever your accountant person is, that they see, you know what, you weren't charged for that. Log the incident on your invoice and receiving document. Any kind of recall. So that means, let's say that we get a recall on romaine lettuce. You've seen that happen before. And if you have, you know what, you just take that romaine, you go get it off the shelf, you cover it, you wrap it up real good, you put recall on it, make sure it says recall, you put it in a corner someplace, and they will come, the vendor will come and pick it up. But you want to make sure nobody uses it, and it's wrapped up, and so that it's separate from everything. All right, inform your staff, you know, and again, I usually try and use colored paper, my Sharpie all over, don't use, recall, because I've had to do that before. So it's not a big deal, and call them, they'll come pick it up, no big deal. Checking the temperature of meat and poultry, you can insert your probe thermometer and check the meat. And again, it's just knowing your temperatures. Your ROP food, that's your reduced oxygen, that's your cryovac food. Anytime that you see anything in a package, like your deli meat or cheeses, they're in a cryovac, so that that's your ROP, the reduced oxygen. So you can put it in between two pieces, and you have your thermometer right there to check the temperatures of it. You can, you know, if you're using sour cream or heavy cream or something like that, you can just stick the probe into any kind of frozen. I'll put it next to each other. Temperature criteria for deliveries, as I said, so your cold foods, you got 41 degrees or lower. So there are some things that you are allowed to have at a little higher temperature. And so live shellfish, oysters, mussels, clams, and scallops can come in no greater than 50 degrees, okay? Once received, it's got to get in the cooler and has to be lowered to 41 within 4 hours. Shucked oysters, you can receive them at 45 degrees or lower. Usually shucked oysters, I've gotten them in where they're frozen. But 45 degrees. Milk, I told you, 45 degrees lower. Eggs, 45 degrees or lower. And then hot food, it needs to be 135 or higher. Here's the thing that you guys need to get. You can get anything you want, however you want it these days. So I always tell this story. I went to Jason's Deli with one of my friends when I lived in Atlanta. And we're sitting there, and I got me a big old corned beef sandwich. And she gets a salad with salmon. And I'm like, you know that salmon's not fresh. You know that it comes in already done and it's frozen. And she's, I'm like, okay. I ruin it for everybody. So it is what it is, right? So, she gets her salad, the salmon's not on there, and she goes, hey, I didn't get my salmon. So they come back, it comes in a bowl, it's steaming. You can tell it got microwaved. Literally, the salmon came in already cooked with a grill mark on it, frozen. All you had to do is put it in the microwave. You can get chicken like that. I mean, you can get anything you want. It's crazy. And people get it because people eat it and they don't know and they don't care. Where, chefs like us, guess what? We care. I don't want I'm not going to eat that. No, I want fresh salmon that comes in, that smells like watermelon. And then I know it's fresh. Just knowing that. Frozen foods need to be frozen, okay? You need to make sure that it's still frozen, that it has no evidence of being thawed or of the refreezing. Any ice crystals, anything like that, you want to make sure that it's frozen and it needs to be the way it is. You want to reject packages, any kind of tears, holes, punctures, anything that you can see, you want to inspect your food. Cans, if they're dented, if they're swollen or bulging, that means they got botulism. Any kind of holes or leaks, you don't want it. Any kind of bloating, so your reduced oxygen, if there's any kind of air in it that you'll see that it's starting to blow up, that means it's leaking, or you got bacteria, you got something in there. Trust me on that one, because if you open it up, it's gonna I've seen it, not good. Broken cartons or seals, so you want to make sure that stuff comes in the way it's supposed to. Reject packages that are dirty or discolored. Leaks, dampness, if it shouldn't be, as I said, if I get a bag of flour and it's damp, I don't want it. There's something wrong, trust me. Signs of any kind of pests, signs of tampering, missing or incorrect labels, or expired and expiration dates. You got to look at the expiration dates too. Requirements for documents. So earlier in one of my lectures, I talked about shellfish, and you got to save the tags. Okay, so here you got to save your tags again for 90 days. Do not remove it until you use it. And once you use it, it goes, I put it in a drawer. I had a drawer, and it just goes in there and it stays. Farm fresh, same thing. You got to keep it for 90 days, okay? And make sure that it's FDA approved. You have your products that require the inspections. Grading stamps, sometimes they're voluntary, and sometimes they're not. Egg products, they're going to be USDA inspection, and they'll have that mark on there. And then the carcasses, meats, you've got the USDA or the Department of Agriculture, okay? So you have those. Assessing the quality, look for the appearance, the texture, odor. Here's the thing, if it's slimy, if it smells bad, or if it's soft and it shouldn't be, if it's wet and it should be dry, all of those things. So you just want to reject it. So so if you're looking at fish and you have fresh fish coming in, so the accepted criteria is, one, you're looking at the gills. You're going to pull it up and you want to see that they're nice and red. You don't want them to be brown. You want it to be moist. If you press on it, the flesh, I just think you can see me. So you press on the flesh, it should bounce back. It shouldn't go into it. It shouldn't be soft. It shouldn't leave an imprint. If it does, it's old. Mild ocean smell. I've always said, like whole salmon, fresh salmon, it smells like watermelon. If you close your eyes, it smells like watermelon. So everybody's like, oh, fish has an odor. No, fresh fish does not have an odor. It shouldn't have an odor. So if it does, it's old. That's what it means. It's old. If you go buy it at Kroger stuff, I don't buy that stuff. Why? Because I know it's been sitting there for days. You want it to have bright eyes and clear. You don't want it to be cloudy-eyed. And it should be packaged with ice around it. Okay? And that's if you're checking in fresh fish. If you're looking at any kind of shellfish, it shouldn't be broken. They're going to come in a bag and they'll come in live. You know, they shouldn't be slimy or sticky or anything like that. If you get live lobsters, you want to make sure they move. So we always, when I was up in Atlanta, I would get live lobster, and our students, we would open up a case, and you would have some that were a little sluggish, but they were still alive. And then you would have some, you'd move it, and it didn't move, and guess what? It was dead. And reject. So you want to make sure that is. If you're looking at meats, you want to make sure that it doesn't have any discoloration. If it's beef, it needs to be a bright red. If it's chicken, it shouldn't have a green or a brown color to it. If it does, purple, green, green hue in chicken means it's going bad. You don't want it. So always be aware of that. And your meat shouldn't have any odor, any brown color. And you can see, I know that you've probably been grocery shopping, and if you look at meats, you can tell what's kind of going old and what's not, what's nice and fresh. So you always want to be very aware of that and be careful. Whole chickens can come with ice on it. It's fine, and no odor. And again, you know what? I used to have my coolers, my walk-ins. I would walk in, and people either have a sense of smell or they don't. And I'd walk in the door, I was like, oh my God, something died in here. And I would tell my cooks, get this clean. And they're like, I don't smell nothing. I'm like, yeah, I know, you've been in it all day long and you haven't smelled a damn thing. But you know what? There's something rotten in there, I promise. And 5 minutes later, they're cleaning it out. What are they? I found it. Yeah, you did. So, you know, you always want to make sure that everything is clean, organized, all that. Eggs shouldn't be broken. They shouldn't have any odor to it. And eggs last a while. You should be fine. Any kind of milk or cheese, it shouldn't have any kind of bacteria on it or mold, anything like that. You know, you shouldn't have, your lid should be clean, dry. If you have anything dripping from it, you got to be very careful of that. You know, all of those things. You know, butter can go rancid if you let butter sit out. I'll never forget. I was teaching a class. It was a Saturday class, and I went and I pulled this butter out, and I was making I was making like a garlic herb butter. I was like, oh, this is gonna be good. And then I went and I tasted it. I'm like, oh my God. And I'm trying to keep this straight face, because I know these people, they will have no idea what I'm tasting because it's rancid. And I'm like, oh my God, I could taste it. And I'm like, oh yeah, it's good. Oh my God, don't eat it. Don't eat it. It's bad. And everybody was like, oh, I love this. And I'm like, oh, you guys have no idea. You know, and then I just threw it away. So yeah, you got to be real careful with that kind of stuff. Fruits, vegetables, you know what, if it looks moldy, it's not good. You know, you don't want to use it. So you want to get the freshest product that you can get, and you want to make sure that you're keeping it fresh. And that's the biggest thing, is when it all starts when it comes in the door, okay? And when it comes in the back door, if you're not looking at the product and you're not using it right away, you know, usually you're going to see fruit and vegetables almost every day to every other day. A lot of we have them come in. I know I did when I was in hotels. I had almost every day, I had fresh fruit and vegetables coming in, because I was going through it so fast, and I wanted it as fresh as I could. I didn't want that stuff sitting on my shelf for weeks on end, because after a week it's dead. So, you know, potatoes, hey, if I have potatoes sitting around for a week, I'm good. But, you know, you got to know what will hold, what has a shelf life and what doesn't. So it's really looking at your products. And it's just, you know, training the people who are going to check in that product. You got to train them. Okay. So that's chapter 6. All right. Let's take a break, and we'll be back, and we'll do chapter 7. All right. Have a good day. Talk to you later. Bye.